Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON West, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening Bhagavad Gita class. We are very happy to have His Grace Padmanabha Achyuta Prabhu, who will be giving us class on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are in the 6th chapter. So Prabhu has always been giving wonderful classes, very, very thoughtful, enlightening classes. So they are eager to hear from him. So over to Achyuta Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu, for accepting the service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. All your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj blessings. Hare Krishna.
Shall we start?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Please.
Thanks. Yes, Hare Krishna devotees. Welcome to ISKCON West Outpost, ISKCON Seshadripuram, and our Bhakti Sadhan class. And today's verse 6.31 and 32. Sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvata vartamano api sa yogi mahi vartate. Sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvata vartamano api sa yogi mahi vartate. Sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvata vartamano api sa yogi mai vartate. Word to word translation. Sarvabhuta sthitam, situated in everyone's heart. Yeah, he who, mom, me, bhajati, serves in devotional service. Ekatvam, in oneness. Astitaha, situated. Sarvata, in all respects. Vartamanaha, being situated. Api, in spite of. Saha, he. Yogi, the transcendentalist. Mai, in me. Vartate, remains. Translation and purport by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the super soul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of super soul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable super souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna consciousness person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, 1.2.187 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikilasva api avastasu jivan muktaha sa uchyate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkaladi anavachine Krishne cheto vidyacha tan mayo bhavati shipram Jivo Brahmani Yojayat. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Veda Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.21 confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Eko apisan bahu bahudaha yo a vabati, vabati. Although the Lord is one, He is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, it is said, Ekayavo Paravishnu Sarva Vyapi Na Samshayaha Aishwaryad Rupam Ekam Cha Suryavat Bahudyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once. So here, verse 31 ends, and we'll move to 32 together, then we can get into the discussion. Verse number 32. आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः. Word to word translation. Atma with his self. Aupamyena by comparison. Sarvatra everywhere. Samam equally. Pashyati sees. Yaha he who. Arjuna O Arjuna. Sukham happiness. Va or yadi if, va or dukkam distress, saha such, yogi a transcendentalist, paramaha perfect, mataha is considered. Translation. He is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. Purport. One who is Krishna consciousness is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna consciousness, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priya krittama Bhagavad Gita 18.69. In other words, the devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others. Also, he does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as devotee who is trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं तदान्ति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगना श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहना रघुनाथान्वितं ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंदा। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांता श्रीमते। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. And today's verses are 6.31 and 6.32. So, as we discussed earlier, chapter, and so let us understand, the connectivity between chapters and some of the divisions about the chapter and connectivity from previous verse, that is 30th verse. So the connectivity between the chapters, as we all know, the chapter 5th, we are in 6th chapter, and the 5th chapter deals about karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, and 6th chapter fully about dhyana yoga, right? Yeah. Mainly, Ashtanga yoga. It's a branch of Ashtanga yoga. And in 5th chapter, we discussed about Ashtanga yoga, and then we are continuing about Ashtanga yoga, that is dhyana yoga is part of it. And here this particular dhyana yoga being divided into 6 division, and presently we are in the 3rd division, end of the 3rd division. The next sloka will move to 4th division. So what is this 3 divisions of this chapter is about dhyana yoga. Initial division is advancing in yoga through detached work. How to understand this advancing in yoga through detached work means Ashtanga yogis like Nishkama Karma yogi. In previous chapter we have seen engage in detached work to advance. Right? They do work and they detach. And section 2 in the 6th chapter, the Yoga Rudha stage or giving up work itself. How to understand this? A yogi may be given up Nishkama Karma Yoga when his mental control reaches the stage of regarding well-wishers, the envious, the pious, and sinners, all are equal, like that. So that is the stage of giving up work itself, division 2. And division 3 deals about, that is what end of, 3rd division is today's verses. further stages in the perfection of yoga. How to understand these perfect stages could be understood in two more divisions. One is basic practice of meditation. That is, meditation is the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga. So we are in the Dhyana Yoga. So this is the advanced stage of Ashtanga Yoga, and that division is over, and we are in the second division of third division. That is perfection in meditation. So that is what today we are going to conclude. What is this perfection in meditation? The remaining divisions are there. That is out of our scope. Necessity of controlling the turbulent mind, and destination of the unsuccessful yogi, and then ending with topmost yogi. And as I mentioned, the second division of third division is perfection in meditation. And further detail about perfection in meditation is it is mentions these two verses very unique. Why these two verses are unique? This details about actions of a perfect yogi. How these two verses are unique is actions of a perfect yogi. So perfect yogi is okay. And what are the actions of this perfect yogi? That is what verse number 31 and 32 deals. Fine. Now, what is the link between verse number 30 and today's verse 31 is, in the following verse, Krishna directly describes super soul realization as worshipful service to him. As worshipful service to him, if the yogi has proper knowledge. I'm repeating the link between the previous verse and this verse. Directly describes super soul realization as worshipful service to him if the yogi has proper knowledge. So that is what the connection between previous verse and these two verses, or the 31st verse. Okay, now let us get into the 31st verse. We read the sloka, word to word meaning and the purport. And what is the theme out of all this? This sloka itself is, the theme of this particular sloka 31 is realizing Krishna to be the origin of super soul. I'm repeating, realizing Krishna to be the origin of super soul. The perfect yogi worships and serves him, and thus always remain in him in all circumstances. The 31st verse says, the perfect yogi worships and serves him, and thus always remains in him in all circumstances. So how he serves and how he could remains always, how it will be, those actions, let us see in the 31st verse. This 31st verse dealing with two aspects. What is the first aspect is how a yogi sees the super soul. Two aspects are there in 31st verse. One is how a yogi sees the super soul, number one. And number two, there is no difference between a Krishna consciousness person engaged in transcendental service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. The second point, little bit tricky. There is no difference between a Krishna consciousness person engaged in transcendental service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. So these are the two points which is the focus of this particular verse purport. And as we discussed earlier, so actions of the perfect yogi. So actions of perfect yogi comes to understand how a yogi sees the super soul. First, to get into act, but how a yogi sees the super soul, let us learn by three more points. The first point deals with one sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu. One sees within himself the plenary portion of Vishnu, Krishna as Vishnu, with four hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. So this is the first detail how a yogi could see a super soul. Number one, and number two, point two, the yogi should know that Vishnu is non-different from Krishna, who is present as super soul in everyone's heart. Then only he could be a yogi. Then only how a yogi can see the super soul, one could understand properly. The third point deals with there is no difference between the innumerable super souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. I'm repeating, this is also difficult point to understand. There is no difference between the innumerable super souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Right? We are minute and Lord is the ocean. But here it is given that collectively it is the super soul of every living entity's hearts filled with, innumerable super souls. Okay. So this is the way, this is the way the yogi can see the super soul. Like plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, and then Vishnu is non-different from Krishna, and then difference between the innumerable super souls. So this is the logic behind how a yogi sees the super soul. And next point, as we mentioned, there is no difference between a Krishna consciousness person engaged in transcendental service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. So how to understand this? Okay. There are two major points here to understand, this second division of the 31st sloka. Yoga in Krishna consciousness, and then Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. I'm repeating, yogi in Krishna consciousness, and the second division is Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. So how to understand this? First point, yogi in Krishna consciousness. Even though he may be engaged in various activities in material world, remains always situated in Krishna. How to understand this further? There are two references we have discussed. One is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is Nectar of Devotion, written by Rupa Goswami. Okay, we all are Rupanugas. We are coming from Rupa Goswami family. That is a lineage of our parampara. And in that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he mentioned in the sloka 1.2.187, what is that? Nikilso api. So in that sloka, in the purport, we read that the meaning of it, a devotee acting in Krishna consciousness is already liberated, declared in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. A devotee acting in Krishna consciousness is already liberated. We know what mean by Krishna consciousness, etc. And the next reference from Narada Pancharatra, the sloka Dik Kaladi. So in that translation, meaning is, by concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and then one attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. This Narada Pancharatra is very clearly putting this particular point. By concentrating one's attention on transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space. This is a proof how a yogi can realize or see the Lord. One becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and then one attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. First, it becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and then one attains the happy state of transcendental association. So by thinking of Krishna, that is the yoga practice, that is the meditation. Okay. So this is the little detail about yogi in Krishna consciousness. So then only that, first absorption comes, and then happy state of transcendental association comes. And then Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. Right? How to understand this? Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. So we are dealing with Ashtanga Yoga. So further detail about how to understand this Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice means understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart. Understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart. and Vishnu is not different from Krishna. In purport we read, makes the yogi faultless. Then only one could be considered as a highest stage of trance in yoga practice. Without this understanding, what is that understanding? First understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart and Vishnu is non-different from Krishna makes the yogi faultless. And further detail, there is another Upanishad called Gopala Tapani Upanishad. So there are four Tapani Upanishads are there. In that one deals about Gopala, other three deals with Narsingadev, and another one deals with Rama, and another one deals with other tattva, like that. And here in Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.2.1, this confirms the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Although the Lord is one, He is present in innumerable hearts as many. So the same point which we discussed earlier, I mentioned, it's difficult to understand, but here there is a proof. Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.2.1 mentions and confirms the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Although the Lord is one, He is present in innumerable hearts as many. That is a proof. And this understanding should be there. Then only the person could be a topmost yogi. This should be the action of the yogi, perfect yogi. And another reference, Smriti Shastra. Smriti Shastra means which comes in the lineage. There is no, we say, so and so is the author in any book. If you take so and so is the author, but Smriti Shastra is unique and which comes from a lineage, through Sabda Pramana. So in that it is mentioned, Vishnu is one and yet He is certainly all pervading. Vishnu is one and yet He is certainly all pervading. So this is another proof for further understanding of yogi about Paramatma, where the Paramatma is seated and all those things. So here the little detail about the verse number 31, gets over, and we will move to verse number 32. And before getting into verse number 32, what is the link between the previous verse and the 31st verse and 32 verse? Let us see. The common theme, the common purpose is the actions of a perfect yogi. We are learning from these two. Arjuna also learning. So after learning this verse is very unique. After learning this 31 and 32, then Arjuna took a decision in verse number 33. This Ashtanga Yoga is not possible. Hare Krishna, please leave me. So let me get into Bhakti Yoga, this Ashtanga Yoga, this Dhyana Yoga. It is not at all possible. It is being declared in the beginning only. So Krishna declared in the beginning only. Arjuna, it is not possible. But Krishna giving more detail about the yogi and what are the actions of yogi. These are the details, Arjuna is learning. So the next verse is, the link between this 31st and 32 verses, by his proper worship, the yogi understands the actual situation of the soul. By his proper worship, the yogi understands the actual situation of the soul in the material world. Krishna will describe that next. I am repeating what Krishna will describe in this sloka. By his proper worship, the yogi understands the actual situation of the soul in the material world. Right? So that is very, very important. So this verse, what is the main theme of this particular verse is, having experienced that in external consciousness, there is no happiness and Krishna consciousness only gives true happiness. External consciousness, there is no happiness, but Krishna consciousness only gives true happiness. The yogi tries to help everyone. The true yogi tries to help everyone without distinction between friend and enemy. Without distinction between friend and enemy. To become happy by turning their consciousness to Krishna. To become happy by turning their consciousness to Krishna. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also it is there. Goshtyanandi and Bhajananandi. So Bhajananandi means I myself very devotional and so perfect in spiritual progress, right? So like that. So it is okay. It is recommended, some extent. But Goshtyanandi is even more higher than this Bhajananandi. What this Goshtyanandi will do here? Let us what we read. Let me read once again. The yogi tries to help everyone without distinction between friend and enemy. That person is Goshtyanandi. Not only my perfection, I am making everyone towards the perfection, like Prabhupada, to become happy by turning their consciousness to Krishna. That is a pure mood of Vaishnava. This is the perfection. This is the exact quality of a true Vaishnava. So, Bhajananandi and Goshtyanandi, we have to march towards Goshtyanandi. Hare Krishna. So, how to understand this? Okay, this theme we have got, and what is the detail? To further understanding the actions of such a yogi in two ways. One is a Krishna consciousness person is a perfect yogi. Why? Because aware of real cause of happiness and distress by dint of his personal experience. Why? This point is very important. A Krishna consciousness person is a perfect yogi. How? Because aware of real cause of happiness and distress by dint of his personal experience. He is the Goshtyanandi, he sees personally why this is happening like that. Now, further detail to this point is the cause of distress and the cause of happiness. The first one is cause of distress. What is the cause of distress in the purport we have seen? Cause of distress is forgetfulness of relationship with God. Forgetfulness with that relationship, with God. And also, in one of the sloka, Arjuna was keep on, inquiring in the second chapter. How could you are giving this knowledge? You are equal to me like that. And Krishna says, he gives the detail. From initially I have preached to Ikshvaku and Vivaswan, and then Ikshvaku, and then Manu. That lineage. He was giving the detail, to Arjuna, and here that point comes. The cause of distress is forgetfulness of relationship with God. That is the reason Arjuna is suffering. So I have come here to give this knowledge to you. Simply, I am not giving you this knowledge. You are my devotee and you are my friend. So I am giving this knowledge. Right? So now Arjuna realizes, what is the cause of distress? The cause of distress is forgetfulness of relationship with God is the cause of distress. Now, what is the cause of happiness? Knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the sincerest friend. Right? There is one sloka. His Dhamma is a Parandama, and he is the Purusha. Right? Parama Purusha. So he is the supreme enjoyer. We all are minute. That quality we have exhibited, that is the punishment. We all have come here and as if we are enjoying, we are thinking, but actually not, because he is the supreme enjoyer, he is the supreme proprietor. So that then only the person could be a perfect yogi. The cause of happiness, knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the sincerest friend. Right? So then only a person could come to the stage of happiness. So sincere friend and supreme proprietor and supreme enjoyer. That understanding one should have, then only they can go to the platform of real bliss or real happiness. And the second division of the 32nd sloka is, a Krishna consciousness person is the best philanthropist and dearest servitor of the Lord. A Krishna consciousness person is the best philanthropist and dearest servitor of the Lord. Because, why? Because he tries to broadcast the importance of Krishna consciousness. Why he is a philanthropist? Why he is the dearest servitor of the Lord? In many slokas, Krishna told, the one who is dear to me means the one who gives my message to the people or devotees. Because he tries to broadcast the importance of Krishna consciousness. Such a people, he will not leave also. Right? My devotees, never perishes, I will not leave them. Even in Bhagavad Gita, the purport, so okay. So the second division deals with, because he tries to broadcast the importance of Krishna consciousness. So that is the reason he is the best philanthropist and dearest servitor of the Lord. Like I mentioned, Goshtyanandi. We have to aspire for Goshtyanandi, not with only with Bhajananandi. So we cannot attain that perfection as a yogi. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 18.69 in the purport, Nacha Tasman, there is one sloka, the first line or second line of the sloka, 69th verse in the 18th chapter. So here it is mentioned, he is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit. Then that is also selfishness, right? But tries for others also. So that is, we are moving from sattva to Suddha sattva. That is most important. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. That is what Goshtyanandi. And then further detail to this, true yogi. This differentiates a pure devotee from a yogi. This differentiates the pure devotee from a yogi. Yogi only interested in personal salvation. The yogi is only interested in personal salvation, but Krishna consciousness person is the different from this yogi. This yogi is only, this is most important. See, why Arjuna is understanding and moving to the next verse. I'm giving the detail about the next verse. The yogi is only interested in personal salvation, but a devotee or a Krishna consciousness person is not only ending with that, personal salvation, and also he shares that, with everyone, like Goshtyanandi. So that is the mood of true Krishna consciousness person. Otherwise, how come Prabhupada, at the age of 70, he started in cargo, what do you call that, cargo ship. For us, we reserve, AC coach, that coach, this coach, for all our comfort, that is not wrong. Let us see the mood of a true yogi, right? And also with massive attacks. And he writes the poem while traveling. Prabhupada mentions, you tell me to dance, Krishna, I will dance. You tell me to sing, I will sing. I am a puppet in your hand. And his mood is very, 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 so condensed, level of bhakti. And he says to Krishna, oh Krishna, why you brought me to this, place, I don't know. Now I am a puppet in your hand. Then he says, all these things. So this is the symptom of, perfect Krishna consciousness person. Only he could be a perfect yogi, not this, the meditator or, all this Ashtanga yoga process, as we, learned in verse number, 27 in the 5th chapter, to set the scene for this particular 6th chapter, right? So here, there it is mentioned in 27th and 27th, 8th verse, Ashtanga yoga is very good. At least in India, people are very fortunate getting into all this, Ashtanga yoga. In Ashtanga yoga also, it is not that easy. Ashtanga yoga in Kali Yuga, that initial stages, the rules and regulations, niyama, pratyahara. So all these things, we have to wake up in the early morning and, we have to do some of the sadhanas, and then it comes all these 8 process, right? So this is, one must come to that stage only. It is not possible, practically, but in Krishna consciousness, one could achieve, all this. It inclusive of all this process, like, Nishkama Karma Yoga, and then this Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, right? And purified by Nishkama Karma Yoga. One must be in full control of mind. When one can, come to full control of mind and then getting into this process, highly impossible. One must be completely indifferent to and unaffected by all material things. How it is possible? My tongue is being trained by many birds. Whenever look at any boha directly, if any pickle, if I looked at any pickle, immediately there is a water in my tongue. How can we come to that stage of controlling all these things? The Kali Yuga, it is nowhere it is possible. By seeing immediately, see how this transmission happens. I don't know. By seeing a pickle, immediately there is a watering. The tongue. So how come to come out of or come to this perfectional stage? It is a big word. Coming to the perfectional stage and then getting into this different process like Ashtanga yogis, like Nishkama Karma yogis, engaged in detached work to advance, right? Detached work to advance, and next stage is detached from work only, going to forest and sitting in a secluded place and keeping eye partially opened and sitting on a deer skin, right? And forgetting about all our so much of anarthas are there. That is different, and forgetting all unlearning is the biggest challenge. It's not at all possible, for person like me. Unlearning, we have been so conditioned, from many birth, even in this birth, right? Still that pride, I am so and so, this identity. So I am an Indian. I am an Prabhupada always mentioned. So I am an American. I am an African. I am an Indian. I am a president. I am a learned person. I am a film celebrity. I am so and so. I am earning this much salary, that much salary. I speaks, this. I am so learned, etc., etc. So, how it is possible this Dhyana Yoga in this, Kali Yuga? So that is the reason all our acharyas recommended, as per the Shastras, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Iva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gadiran. Right? So there is no other alternate other than chanting the name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. We all are very fortunate to have our parampara and Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, all senior devotees, like Vidura Prabhu and all other senior devotees, those who are following the path. Only they could become a perfect yogi. Others, it is not at all possible. By hearing this, by knowing this, then Arjuna comes to the platform of Hare Krishna, my soul surrender unto you. Like, that confirmation. Here it, by action, Krishna explains, this is the, actions of perfect yogi. The essence of these two slokas deals mainly about these are the actions of a perfect yogi, right? So, once again, I will summarize the theme of these two slokas. The first sloka's theme is realizing Krishna to be the origin of super soul. And the second verse theme is having experienced that in external consciousness there is no happiness, and Krishna consciousness only gives true happiness. And mainly yogi tries to help everyone without distinction between friend and enemy. So we all know how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they go, and Vidura Prabhu always gives this example. They go, in Gauda Desha, and everyone's door to door, and prostrated obeisances, Dandavat Pranam in front of the door. Please take this Krishna consciousness. See the mood of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Otherwise, where is the question of taking this remnant of all this? I can claim, we are giving so much of very nice, very opulent scripture and this thing, but getting into this and how much effort being put by all our senior devotees and our parampara, it's not that easy to get this mercy. Purely it is a mercy only to become a perfect yogi. Otherwise, sitting and meditating, how long it will take? Many births. Prabhupada says, here, why are you coming by staircase? Here there is a lift. Forget about Brahman realization. Forget about, Paramatma realization. Come to the Bhagavan realization. So I will take you all. You come, right? See the mercy. That is a mood of Bhajanananda. So here The second verse we read, that is so related to this mood of Prabhupada. Prabhupada never ever missed to think of his disciples, right? So, formation of GBC and assigning so and so work. So appointing 20 plus authorities when he was leaving, right? Many times he shared his realization. Now this ISKCON movement will exist for another 10,000 years. Happily, he told, and he called many of his disciples. He knows whether this disciple is capable or not. But even though he empowers and sends, that is a mercy, true mercy of a true Vaishnava. Right? A person like there are many person like me and my wife, and we all are getting initiated. So everybody is coming and asking, "Oh, Hare Krishna, you all are very elevated." This is purely a mercy. It's a beginning, not even qualified to begin at all. So it is purely a mercy. One could get into Krishna consciousness. That is a perfect stage of a true yogi. Otherwise, no. Yes, in ISKCON, yes, I am also there, and I am with second initiation. Yes, it is needed, but the real mood, the real yogi, should go and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And whatever the mood and whatever the level one is, the one rounder can preach to a zero rounder. The four rounder can preach to less than four rounder. Whatever the level. So Prabhupada, one more pastimes of Bhakti Char Maharaj. He is a Bengali and he is no more. And he when he was sharing the pastimes with Prabhupada, he shared once he made his mind, he decided to learn Sanskrit very fluently. So from tomorrow onwards, let me get into the perfection towards Sanskrit like that. Then Prabhupada told, okay, so don't waste your time. It is okay. You see in India, how many of them knows Sanskrit? There are thousands of people know Sanskrit. Are they devotee? He replied, yes, no, Prabhupada. Yes, so don't waste your time. Whatever the stage you are, whatever the you have been equipped materially as well as spiritually. From that stage onwards, you start preaching to whom you are preaching and what is our level. It is always recommended. So that is the mood of Goshtyanandi. No, I should take Brahmana initiation, then only I should open my mouth, then only I can realize I don't know. That is not the thing. So the true mood is so very nicely, and there is a saying, whomever you meet, wherever you meet, Bolo Krishna Katha, right? Wherever we go, wherever we speak, always we should relate to Krishna. Otherwise, it will be very, bogus realization. Yes, I have come to some stage, but I will not get into all this. So let us speak. Place and circumstances. Again, it doesn't mean that we have to go door to door like that. And in Kali Yuga, I don't know, whether I am not in that mood, but there are devotees, today in temple, right? I have seen one second initiated devotee, right? My son, Ratik was standing somewhere, and very adjacent to him, he was cleaning the doors of the Jagannath Mandir, right? That small gaps, the goo, that area. See, that is a real mood of a devotee. There in front of the Lord Jagannath. So we all are, servant of the Lord. And today is the Gundicha, right? Vidura Prabhu can relate. Gundicha Marjana, that is a festival today. That is cleaning. So we all are, servant of the Lord. We can clean our, altar. We can clean our, spiritual places. All these things. So here I'd like to, stop today's, verse discussion. And if there is any, anarthas in my way of communication, please forgive me. Hare Krishna. There are any queries, you are most welcome. Or Vidura Prabhu could, add something related to this verse. Over to you, Paresh.
If there are any questions, first we can take. So very wonderful class, Prabhu. Like, very very deep. Like you've gone through in so much detail. Very very deep. The point comes out very clearly. That, both mean whatever you mentioned in the class comes out very clearly. And the Krishna here says, right, anyone who worships me, who is situated inside my heart. That means inside his heart, everybody knows Paramatma, but he is saying me. And he is saying whatever he is doing, he is actually fully situated in me. That means we are like one who is actually worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma or as Krishna, both are one, that is established. He is saying he is fully situated in me, whatever he is doing. But he is worshipping the Lord internally, that's there. The second one is when you reach that perfection, what happens? That is what it is. Such a person sees that Krishna inside everybody, and therefore he is fully cognizant of all the sufferings and the happiness of all the beings. So what you talked about Goshti Anandi, all very nice. This is the core of what you. If you are reaching that perfection, you should be able to see Krishna everywhere. And more importantly, he sees, like he uses this word, by comparison to his own self. That means those who are suffering, he is able to compare with himself that I am also a soul, small minute soul, and here is another minute soul. And it is very important that, and he sees Krishna inside him also, and he wants to reach out to go and, that next one is there, right? It says, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. So that your point of having to reach out, right? Yeah. It's you are actually a half yogi if you are simply seeing Krishna in yourself and you are happy. Right? That is not perfection. Yes and no. Yes in a relative term, but no in a big term, because you are not able to see the fullness of Krishna. As you said, you are selfish. You are trying to just this one. But the other fellow, he is true to this verse actually. He is seeing Krishna everywhere and wants to reach out to everyone to bring them to that point of this one. So he's, this is a different plane altogether. He is a perfect yogi, because this verse talks about such a person, right? That he is actually sees everything in the distress and in happiness. That means you should be able to see the distress. You should be able to do something about it, right? Rather than saying, no, I don't know. I am trying to do my best to save myself, right? And you gave very nicely how saving myself can actually be done only by this method. Otherwise, it's more of a farce. We can pretend to ourselves that I am doing, but you are not heading anywhere, because it's very difficult. So, but if you are trying the other one, trying to do whatever you learned, you try to give, that will fix you up here, right? Krishna says, right? You are one who is fixing himself in me in his heart. That is fixing, like by this practical way of reaching out. Whatever you have, try to give, and whatever you have, only in Krishna consciousness you are trying to give, not about your material knowledge or whatever. So, okay, I have little of Krishna, in Krishna's, whatever I know little of Krishna, I am sharing that one. But I have a lot of material knowledge that I am sharing is of not any significance. But you are sharing Krishna here. Little or big, it's immaterial. So that is very nice. So that mood actually will put me in oneness with Krishna. That Krishna is saying, right? One who's thinking of me, talking for me. How big or small, that is very immaterial. What can anybody know about Krishna? Whatever. Even if you know all of the scriptures, that is still so small compared to who Krishna is in reality. So if you are, whatever you know, if you are able to spend that energy towards talking about Krishna and enlightening other person, that is a great yogi. And about being fixed there, that's the sadhana. How much can I be there? How much can I be there? right? Our journey is that, but everyone should actually be in that mode of trying to give, and he's already situated. Krishna says he's in oneness with me. Whatever he's doing, he's oneness with me. Very nice, amazing verses. So only if we can go deeper. This Mayavad concept is gone here. Here he's saying, right, who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul. That means you are different and the super soul is different, right? You can't worship yourself. That is very foolish. He says that yogi who is worshipping that super soul or me inside, bhajanti. Bhajati means what? Bhaja. Bhaja means is to worship the Lord. You are worshipping me. That means you are different, I am different. So these are all very simple. I don't know how people make this, give versions to Bhagavad Gita as like, no, that soul and the super soul are both same. It's clearly saying that soul has to worship that super soul. And then he says he remains in me. That's different. When you say remains in me, if you think therefore I become one with that thing, that's not what it is, right? He remains in me in all circumstances. And he's also saying the next one also, right? Your mode should be that, you should think of engaging everyone in my service. So, very powerful verses. Thank you very much. Very wonderful class today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hare Krishna.
Hare Okay, so
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, thank you very much for the simple explanation, of the whole stuff. Though 6 chapters, somehow I find it little difficult, but little difficult in terms of the theory that is involved, right? But you explained it in a very easy way, right? So thank you for that. And I was engaged continuously, hearing all that. What I realized is that some of the things that are so difficult to read, but when you listen such simple lectures, it becomes so easy to understand, right? So thanks a lot, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class.
Thanks for sharing. Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Thanks.
Thanks for wonderful explanation. The shlokas itself were very interesting, and you gave a very wonderful, detailed explanation as usual. So, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare.
thank you. So Rohit Prabhu has also put his comments there.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you all. So I think I think devotees are able to really use this time and try to understand and get benefit. That is what, whether 5 people, 6 people, 8 people, 3 people, time is very, very usefully spent trying to understand, trying to meditate on the Supreme Lord and seeing our situation in relation to the overall, what is to be done. So this time is really, really very, very fruitful and talked about the best time that we can ever spend, whatever time. You talked about the best, you said, right, in this class, you said this is the biggest charity. Whatever charity, you can give $1 million or $2 million, but this is the biggest charity. And to know that, to spend time to know that itself is the biggest time that you have spent, most effective time that we have spent. You can spend time in so many ways, but to understand what is the biggest charity, if you spend time, that is the biggest worth of our time. So grateful for all of you to have joined here and meditated on these 2 verses. Thanks to Padmanabha Achyuta Prabhu for enlightening us, and thanks to the temple for giving us this opportunity to do this service in an organized manner. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. And devotees in Bangalore were very blessed to have Guru Maharaj's darshan in person. Or I believe he was there for a week in Bangalore.
Yeah, he was there almost a week, and not just darshan. Our team also got to do literally personal service to Guru Maharaj. I was seeing Achyuta Prabhu standing right behind Guru Maharaj, and everybody else in front is rushing to make somehow get near him and take his blessing. Prabhu's, standing the other side and filming the whole thing, like this many
Very
devotees.
good.
They got to wash Guru Maharaj's clothes,
Very good.
iron them,
Very good.
dry them up,
Uh,
whatever, many service. Banu Maharaj, Mataji's got to prepare lunch for Banu Maharaj, very much appreciated.
Jai,
So much
Jai.
so that
Very
the
good.
team was trying to say, can we have one more lunch or dinner from this team, like for Banu Maharaj. So,
Very nice.
peaceful. So, very peaceful.
Very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Guru Maharaj is
Yeah.
empowering everyone nicely, and we can see the outcome, right? Devotees are really fixed up, very fired up, feeling the bliss.
Jai, Jai. And I think Krishnaveri Mataji got initiated, so congratulations to Mataji and Prabhuji. So that is also a wonderful thing.
Yes, very nice.
Right.
Yes, Prabhuji, that is a great event. So many congratulations and Danvats to Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, with all the mercy of our Vidra Prabhu and the family.
Yes.
Haribol.
Yes, Mataji.
Next, you are in the queue, Prabhu. Kapil Prabhu.
Yes. Yes, Mataji. I am in the queue.
Sooner the better.
I remember, you have always been very eager. When we used to write papers and all, you used to be very eager in what the questions, what the answers were written. So that eagerness has resulted in this great event in your life. So congratulations, Mataji.
She had a toughest of interview, 2 interviews each for 1.25 hours plus. So she was grilled with all the all the philosophy plus practice. So very, very what do you call, come out of it with a lot of from fire, right, kind of a thing. And she could also feel the bliss at the end of it when she got initiated. Right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Guru Maharaj
Very
must
nice
be
experience in my life.
Yeah.
Very nice. Unforgettable moment. Hare Krishna. All glories to Vidra Prabhu and family.
Guru Maharaj mercy is there.
Yes. Through you, we got mercy of Guru Maharaj.
Sincere Guru Maharaj is giving, so that's all.
Yes, Prabhu. True.
Very nice. Nice that you all got this point and can glorify devotees nicely. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we will end the session. Next week we have Ratha Yatra on Sunday. So that's a big session.
Saturday.
Saturday, is it okay? But for Sunday then we may have Kasi possibly. Okay. So Saturday is Ratha Yatra. So we have to plan again as usual. We offer boga to the Lord on the street. So we have to see how we can do this. Everyone at least contributing 5 to 6 dishes each, whatever, one tonna each of those items will be nice. So we can make. Last 2 years we have been making more than 108 dishes like that. This time I don't know. We are slightly out of the game for some time in some form and shape, not really out, but we will certainly be able to make. But not like 30-40 dishes like we could do. But this time I don't know. But anyway, all the devotees together, if we can make even 50 dishes, that will be nice. So we will see how to plan that and see how it goes. A blissful experience. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so we will discuss.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We will end the session now.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Thanks.